All right, fine. So child class over here, and today we'll be seeing how to identify objects. Okay, and that day we had actually seen different things like exception handling and all. Okay, and we had also launched the basic browser. After launching the browser, you have to interact with the elements. So I had told you that day that everything in Selenium is actually a web element. Okay, everything on a browser is a web element. All the components of the browser are known as web elements, or we also call it as objects. Okay, a link, a button, anything on the web page is known as a web element or an object. If somebody is saying that element is web element is not or object is not found, it is the same thing. You interact with the web page. Okay, that day you have to go on the page source. Page source consists of tags and attributes. Okay, you can right click on any element, click on inspect, and this is the arrow. Okay, this is an arrow which will come, or this is the page source which will come. All right, you can click on this arrow and move the element or move the arrow on any element. Okay, you will get the page source of that particular element. Okay, every element has a tag and different attributes. For example, if you have this, if you click on sign in over here, and if you inspect the username field, okay, this will come. You can switch to the bottom view. It is comfortable. Page source comes at the bottom. All right, and you can look at the username field. Okay, right. So if you look at the user field, this is the tag name is input, right? The type, ID, max length, these are the attributes. So with the help of tags and attributes, we will identify the elements. Okay, how will we? Okay, I'm going to a new package over here, day 5. I go to the properties, and this is the path of this package on the hard drive. Right, you open this location, right, and I'm going to create a new Excel file. Okay, which will actually contain, just a minute, it's not letting me create an Excel file. Okay, it was not visible. Okay, I will discuss about different HTML elements inside it. Okay, let's see what are the different elements with which we want to actually interact. Okay, right. You can write element type, tag name, and every element has got few mandatory attributes and few optional attributes. Okay, right. So there are few. Hold on. Just a minute. It is hanged. So look, these are, we are basically discussing about element types. What is the tag name associated with the element? What are the mandatory attributes associated with the element, and what are the optional attributes? Every element, whether it is a button or a link, okay, or anything on the page, will certainly have a tag name. And there are few mandatory attributes with the tag which have to be there, and few optional which might not be there then also. Okay, let me close this Excel. I think it's gone for a toss. Hold on, I'll make it again. Element type, tag name, and optional attribute. Okay, right. So, what are the different element types we have got in HTML? Okay, what are the different element types? We have got, I don't know why this Excel is hanging. As soon as I try to change the font, it hangs. Guys, like, I'm really not sure. So you have got text field, you have got buttons, okay, and you have got radio buttons, right? Checkboxes, okay. You have link, all right. You have a select box, a drop down, basically, all right. You have images on the web page. You have a regular text, the general text which is written on the web page. All right. So generally, these are the components which are visible to you on the web page. I'm not talking about few invisible components like frames and all. Okay, right. If you have any questions, you can ask me or you can use the chat box. Okay. So there are different, these are the different element types. If you talk about a text field, like the input type equals to text, the tag name is input. Okay. There is a mandatory attribute. Type equals to text is a mandatory attribute. It will be there with every text field. Okay. Look at this button. If you look at the sign in button, okay, the sign in button is again an input tag. The button also has got the tag name input, but there is attribute type equals to submit in case of a button. Okay. In case of radio buttons also, the tag names are same. Okay, but the type attribute varies. In case of a radio buttons, type is equal to radio, and in case of checkbox, the type is equal to checkbox. It is there, I know that. In case of links, okay, link, for example, I talk about this home link. All the links on all the web pages have the tag name A, anchor tag. Okay, right. And there is known as href, which is mandatory, which points towards the URL, which will open when you click on the link. Okay. In case of link, there is a mandatory attribute known as href. In case of a drop down, okay, right, the actually select. There is no drop down on the page, but if you look at any drop down, the tag name will be select, and there is no mandatory attribute or optional attribute in case of a drop down. In image, for example, this is an image. The tag name is img, and the source attribute points towards the URL from which the image will load. If I copy this URL, open it, you will see that image will just come up over here. Anyways, the tag name is img and the attribute is src, the mandatory attribute. Okay, src represents the location from which the image is loading, the server location. A regular text on the web is written over here, or username or password. There is no specific tag name for it. Sometimes it is under div tag, sometimes para tag, sometimes li tag. Okay, there is no specific tag for regular text on the web page. For the regular text, there is no mandatory attribute or no optional attribute. So with the help of these mandatory attributes, tag names, optional attributes, we tend to uh, we tend to identify the elements. Now, what are these optional attributes? Okay, again, my Excel has hanged, but I've done my work actually. Okay, optional attributes are I is an input. Generally ID, name, max length. The other attributes are the optional attributes. If an element has got ID or a name attribute, it is really easy to identify it because ID and name are supposed to be unique for an element. No two elements on the page generally have the same ID or name. Developers never do that. Okay, but not all elements have IDs or name. But if you have an element who's got ID or a name, it is really easy to identify. If you go to presentation, I had actually opened within Eclipse. Just a minute. Just a minute. It's like move the mouse over, say Chrome driver, and yes, the documentation. If you switch to the frames view, you will have the WebDriver interface. WebDriver interface has got the function find element. The description is finds the first web element using the given method. Most of you must be knowing about this. Okay. So what we do is that I will just browsers. Okay. I will copy my launch browser. Hold on. In this Excel, I'll just write name, ID are the optional attributes, and they are supposed to be unique for an element. Sometimes you also have an attribute known as class. Class is not unique. There can be multiple elements on the same web page who have the same class. So you have to be little bit careful. But with the help of just these 4 columns and understanding these correctly, you will be able to give yourself a start. Right. Now, I'll just copy the launch browsers and I'll move it to day 5. Now, launching Chrome, and suppose this website where I have to enter the username. Fine. Then after going to this page, you have to give the command driver dot find element. How do you find the element? How There is a class, as I told you in the last class, known as by. With the help of this by, find the elements. There are different strategies to find, and 2 of them are by ID or by name. There is a link text as well if you want to find a link. Okay, and everything in this class is static. If it is static, it can be directly accessed by the class name. Okay, so what we do is that we simply write over by dot, and you get all these because everything is static. All the locator functions are static. You get all of them. One of them is ID, by the ID, and that ID is login1 because this is the input field whose ID is login1. So you can put login1 over here. Okay, right. So returns you dot find element, returns you, it will automatically find and returns you the handle of web element interface. It will return you web element representing, I'll call it say username, web element interface reference. It's going to return you. Okay, right. So it will do the magic itself. It's internally built in Selenium. It will automatically find it and give you the web element handle corresponding to the username field. If you have the web element interface reference, then in web element you have the general operations which you can perform on this element. This is a text field. In text field we type. So there is a function in web element known as send keys, which says that use this method to simulate typing into an element which may set its value. So what you can write over here, username dot send keys, say user1, and if you run this program, You see that it types in user1 in the username field. It's quite fast as well. Similarly, you can look at the password field. Password has the ID password and there is a name attribute as well. Let's use the name for password field. PASSWD. Over here, web element password is equals to driver dot find element by the name password. And what do you want to do with it? You want to type send keys password. I have copied the name. You make sure you copy the right thing from the web page over here. All right. And similarly, if you want to click on the sign in button, this is the sign in button, right? And name of this button is proceed. So if an element has a name or an ID, it is really easy to find it. And the first example I deliberately took so that it's an easy one. We have elements which have name and ID. Okay, right, right. So you can write driver dot find element by the name, proceed, and button dot click. So when you run this code, you see that it runs at least, right? So the click is also the part of web element interface. Okay, right over here, you see that this is one of the functions click. So you can do a lot of things with this web element interface. Only thing is that the driver.find element command should actually be correct. Okay, and it should actually boil down to an element. What happens if it doesn't boil down to that element? I'll talk about it in some time. Okay, but for finding one element and to interact with it, I'm in the first line I'm finding the element, and in the second line I'm actually interacting with it. There is no need to do this. Okay, I'll just comment this code. You can do it in one line, and you can write driver.find element by the ID login one dot send keys. The execution starts from left to right. First, this part is evaluated into a web element. On that web element, you fire the send keys function. Okay, right. Then you write driver.find element by the name password. On that, you fire the send keys function. Okay, and then proceed and you fire the click function. So you can simply write in one line as well. Okay, right, it's going to work. Now, what if two elements, by chance you come across a scenario, you see it's working, two elements, they have the same ID, driver.find element by the ID, or I'm writing driver.find element by the name. What if two elements have the same ID or two elements having same name? What will happen in that case? Okay, look, Selenium, the from left to right. Okay, it scans the page like this. That is Hold on. I'm not getting it. Yeah, it scans the page like this and goes to the bottom side and tries to find the element. Okay, right. Now, if there are two elements on the web page, say one is over here and one is over here, which have the same name or same ID, then Selenium, the first one. Selenium will use the first one. It will ignore the second one. If you want to use the second one, there are ways to use it. I will tell you. Okay. Look at the Java docs, and if you move the mouse over, if you move the mouse over find element function, it will clearly say that this finds the first web element using the given method. Okay, find the first web element using the given method. All right. Now, what if the element is not found? Okay, what if I give an ID which is not existing, right? And if I try to run this, sorry, I will instantly no such element exception. With a fraction of a second, it will throw this exception. No such element exception. And if you scroll, it will tell that launch browsers line number 41. If you, it will highlight the line as well. Maybe what happens is that the element is present. It takes a little while for the element to appear on the web page or something. Maybe some Ajax components are loading. You have to wait for some time before actually telling Selenium that fine, throw an error. You have to wait some time. But in this case, if you observe carefully, as soon as the web page loads, within a fraction of a second, it will throw the exception. You see that? Look at both the sides and it comes up. It's too fast. Sometimes you have to tell Selenium, okay, fine, just wait for say 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and try to find it, and then throw the error. Sometimes people they say that fine, or you can use a thread.sleep, say 5 seconds over here. It's not a bad thing to use thread.sleep, but you can't just use it every time. Thread.sleep is like pausing the program for 5 seconds. It will pause the program for 5 seconds and then it will find the element. So if you run this, what we do is that we use something known as implicit wait. Okay, we write over here driver find dot manage dot dot timer. Just after opening the browser, the script will open the browser, right, of your choice. Dot implicitly wait, say 15, comma. There is a class known as time unit, which defines the time units like days, hours, milliseconds. You write time unit dot seconds. Now this is a global wait. First of all, it is applicable to all driver.find element commands. Wherever driver.find element command is there, this is a global wait. It is applicable to all the commands. And whatever time you give over here, that means 15 seconds. So what it will do is that for 15 seconds, if you look at this line, it will keep on calling the web page for 15 seconds maximum and then throw the error. If the element appears in 10th second, it will use it in 10th second and move forward. Thread.sleep was like pausing the program. This is different. Okay, this is different. Fine. So you have understood my point, right? So thread.sleep is like pausing the program. This is a dynamic wait and it is applicable to all the driver.find element commands. It's a dynamic wait for 15 seconds. If the element is found earlier than that, it will use it. And if you run this program, you will see that it's not throwing the error like this. It's constantly checking the page and after 15 seconds, it throws the error. Okay, right. If I just remove this thing x from the end, this thing will work regularly. Okay, if the element is not found, only in that case, the implicit wait will start working. All right. Now, I change the browser name to Mozilla. Just by changing the browser name to Mozilla, if I run the same code, I've just changed the browser name to Mozilla. Mozilla is opened. You see that? It's working. Now, how does this work? It's because the page source remains the same across all the browsers. There is hardly any website these days which has got a different page source for different browsers. Okay. If you right click on this element and inspect in the browser, you will see that in the Mozilla browser, you will see that ID is same, login 1 for the password field as well. The name is PASSWD, ID name are same. So the page source basically is same. The browser might vary. So script written by investing one browser can work in the other browser as well. Okay, and this is the main point. Right. Only thing is to dynamically change the browser, you have to change it from here. Use the concept of interfaces and open the browser. After that, the code. All right. Fine. I hope you have understood my point. Okay. Now, Not every time an element will have an ID or a name. Okay. Not every time, every element will never have an ID or a name. Alright. And in that case, we use XPaths. For example, if you want to click on this rediff.com image, right? Okay. There is a rediff.com image over here. If you inspect this image, and if you look at this image source is this. The source attribute tells the URL from which image is loaded. But there is no ID, there is no name. In this case, we look at the other there in the by class. If you look at the by class, you can find elements with the help of something known as XPaths or CSS selectors. Right. Let's look at XPaths. Right. XPath is like the address of the element on the web page. Okay. XPath is like the address of the element on the web page. What do you mean by address? Like, for example, you have an address, street number this, flat number this, house number something, which uniquely identifies you. Right? So XPath is also something like that, not exactly same. Okay. So how do you build the actually manage it? Look, there are two types of XPaths. One is known as the complete XPath or absolute XPath. Fine. The other one is known as the partial XPath. Okay. We tend to work more with partial XPath, not with complete or absolute XPath. Okay. Now, how is the XPath made? Talk about complete XPath. If you look at the image, right, then in this, everything is starting in the page source. Everything is starting from the HTML tag name. Okay. And image tag is over here. So the first source tag of the complete page. So in complete XPath, we traverse down these tags. Okay. We write over here HTML slash. Below the HTML tag, there are two tags, head and body. The image tag is somewhere under the body tag. Okay. I'll just maximize it. Image tag is somewhere inside the body tag. Alright. So we write slash body. Inside the body tag, you have three tags: div tag, script tag, and iframe tag. Okay. I will look at the div tag. Right. So inside the body tag, there is a div tag because the tag is somewhere under this div. Under this div tag, there are three parallel division tags. Okay. There are three parallel division tags. You have to go inside the first division tag. Okay. Right, because the image tag is somewhere inside the first one, not the second or the third. These three parallel, by saying parallel, I mean that under this tag, there are three tags next to each other. And this is the nodal, the parent tag. Under this, there are three tags. One is this, and other is this. So if you have to go inside the first, you write slash div1. Okay. Then inside the first division, again there are three other divisions which are parallel to each other. Under this parent division whose class is left wrap, you have three divisions which are parallel to each other. You have to go inside the first one again because image tag is under the first one. Okay, right. So you will write slash div1. Under this division, there is again three divisions parallel. Okay, again you have to go in the first one. So slash div1. And then you have the anchor tag A, and then you have the image tag img. So slash A slash img. So this is your full XPath, complete XPath, which starts from the root of the document. You can check its validity. Inside the page source, you hit Control F, Control Find of the keyboard. You will get this text field. In the text field, you paste the XPath and it will highlight the element. This means it is correct. The element will also be highlighted on the page. Look at the page on the top. The rediff image is highlighted. Okay, right. Now, if you want to go in the second division, you will have to write 2 or 3. If you don't write anything, by default, it goes in the first one. Writing 1 is not compulsory. You can also just omit writing 1. By default, it will go in the first one if you don't write 1. If I copy this XPath, paste it here, it will again highlight the same image tag. Okay, so in your code, you can go, suppose instead of clicking the button, I will write driver dot find element by the XPath. You give this complete XPath dot click. So when you run this, see, I calculated it on Mozilla as well. It went to the, I calculated, it's working on Mozilla. Now, one more thing, guys. Out here, you have got complete XPath like this. We refrain ourselves from using complete XPaths. Because if something changes in the application at the root of the document or something, maybe a new element gets added over here, then everything goes for a toss. All your XPaths and all everything will change, and which becomes a little tough to maintain as well. That is why we go for partial XPaths. Okay. And if I inspect an element, the element is highlighted. You can right click on the element, you'll get the option of copy and copy full XPath. When you copy the full XPath, you get the complete XPath of the element. Just remove slash from the beginning. Okay, right. There is no need to calculate it manually. You can right click on the element and copy full XPath. You can inspect the element. You right click on it, copy. Only XPath option is there. This is giving you an XPath like this. This is actually giving you a partial XPath. Okay, I have not talked about partial XPath, but complete XPath you don't need to calculate. you can directly get it from Chrome, and it's very accurate. Sometimes when partial XPaths don't work, nothing works. The complete XPaths certainly work because it starts from the root of the document and it goes to the element. Only thing is that if something changes in the application, a minor page change or structural change will actually change this XPath. Okay, right. Now partial XPaths. I'll take this up tomorrow because I need a stretch of say 40-45 minutes at least to explain partial XPaths, which are really important. Okay, so we will stop here. Fine. If anybody